So very, very good afternoon to everybody. And once again, a very warm welcome to our Business Spotlight series of interviews. My name's Ron Maycock. I'm the owner of Action Coach Castleford and Business Performance UK. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Jamie Goldspink. Very good afternoon to you, Jamie.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Nice to see you. So Jamie is the owner and creative director of Goldspink Creative, and we're going to be hearing a lot more from him in just a few moments. Before we did that, though, I really just wanted to explain what the purpose of these interviews actually is. We're surrounded by some amazing businesses in our region, and these interviews help us share their journeys, celebrate their successes, and ultimately increase their exposure, all in the name of abundance, because it's not just for businesses in the Yorkshire region. This goes out all over the UK and increasingly internationally as well. So we actually have profiles going out into the States and Australia as well as the UK. So it's a great way of sharing these journeys and highlighting what these wonderful companies are actually doing. So without further ado, let's crack straight on. And Jamie, tell me a little bit more about Goldspink Creative.
Well, thank you very much. Goldspink Creative is something that I've been working with or working on for the last 10 years since going self-employed. In a previous life, I spent 20 years in architecture, and I wanted a bit more challenging career, so I went at it alone. It's taken me through some sort of twists and turns with regards to what I really wanted Goldspink Creative to become. I don't think I'm quite there yet, but currently we're working. I work as a sort of consultant stroke sort of advocate for clients that want creative solutions, essentially, from sort of web design, branding, through to marketing, through to SEO, through to signage and sort of estate sort of signage wayfinding, and that's harking back to my architecture days, sort of bringing the two disciplines together.
So I was going to say, so in terms of the market that you specialize in, there's a lot of creative companies out there that do generically digital footprint. I'm getting the impression that it's something slightly different that you do, that it includes that. So who actually is this for? Who do you work most with when you said about the architectural side?
Predominantly, it's asset managers and estate owners that own industrial estates and commercial property in general. And that could be the asset managers, the investment portfolio managers, or the commercial agents and the property agents as well. They're all tasked with increasing footfall to buildings, increasing the rental value as well, and increasing the sort of presentation and the sort of lifespan of the building, so they can sort of keep it let. So typically what they would come to me for would be for sort of updating signage on an existing building that's been built already, upgrade the signage and do some marketing on let units. On new builds, they would come to me for sort of temporary site signage when the site starts up, with sort of hoarding design, as well as the CGIs that would go onto all their own internal marketing, etc. And also they put them up on big boards outside the sites too, just to and to be honest, for planning as well, because planners now expect CGIs for most developments, especially on the commercial or retail side of things. But I also work with small SMEs, people with sort of 2 to 10 staff. A lot of them are only like they're sort of on their own as well, like I am. And I help them through their sort of, either they're starting up and they need help all the way through, and sometimes I give them sort of it's not like charity, but I sort of help them get going. They always get more than what they ask for, because I understand budgets are tight, and you know, the last thing they need to spend is not from my perspective, but the last thing that they feel like they should be spending is on creative and web and brochures and branding, etc. But obviously they're essential for any startup or new business venture to get off the ground with.
Yeah. And you tend to keep that with a form of property focus? So is this generally businesses that are associated to that as an industry, or are you literally looking at anyone within a geographical area that you could work with as well?
Not necessarily. I've got one client that's an oil and gas client, and they work globally.
Mm-hmm.
I will help them with their branding and rebuild their website. And I speak to them daily now, and they're a good client of mine, and they're massive. And then I also have someone locally here in the village that does sort of insurgence threats to big commercial projects all around the world. So he does threat assessments and risk analysis. And there's only 2 of them in the business. And I work with them on a weekly basis as well. And I develop their brand and build their website again. So they're not necessarily in the sort of property field. I'm at a position where we can choose who our clients are, and if you gel, and if the relationship you feel is going to be a strong one and a long one, then there's someone that I want to sort of keep working with, and I want them to mature, because as they're company,
sorry, to have that ability to pick and choose. As I say, there's lots of digital, we'll do websites, and it's all either we'll build the website for you, or we'll focus on e-com or whatever it may be. If you're sort of approaching that aligned skill set, so the transfer of skills is applicable to multiple things. If they want to use you, it'll be based on the relationship and the trust that you're building, rather than saying I'm an expert in that, because your expertise obviously are still aligned to the property side, and that's where the whole of you is being utilized, I guess, by the client, rather than just little pockets of it, I guess. So and in terms of the sort of split of the business, then how much is down the sort of lane of property and the evolution from really being involved with the architectural side, and how much of your business is the sort of pick and choose side?
Work wise, actual physical coalface stuff, it's about 50-50. Money wise, it's another issue, because the fees are differently on the architecture, on the sort of signage and the commercial property side. I love both avenues equally, and that's why it's ended up pretty 50-50. I enjoy the challenge working with small companies that are starting out or have a very unique sort of design problem. And I also like working on the sort of the signage side and the wayfinding side, because it's like instinctive for me to be able to do that, because I've had so many years. I've had nearly 30 years experience in that industry. So it's quite instinctive and not necessarily easy, but I still enjoy the challenge, and I can confidently sell that service to the client because I have so much experience. I can already visualize what's going on, and I can give honest and transparent advice.
And it's earning the right and having the credibility within a certain sector, and that really shouldn't be overlooked, I guess. So with this sort of wayfinding and in layman's terms, I know when we were sort of speaking before this sort of interview, we were talking about where would I actually see these. So where would I see your work, if you like, when I'm driving along down a road in or out of Leeds or somewhere like that?
Well, two would stand out for me. One would be in Wythenshawe in Manchester. There's an industrial estate called Southmore Industrial Estate. If you can remember Southmore, you'll never forget when you see the building and see the signs. Some of the biggest lettering I've ever built. 3-meter tall high sign, letters at the top of a giant old tank factory in Wythenshawe. And another one would be Battersea. I worked with a team at Battersea probably 9 years ago now, 8-9 years ago, one of my first early projects. And I helped them design a signage strategy and a wayfinding strategy for intake and outgoing of sort of the animals in the whole park, because incoming animals that are brought to the charity can't mix with the general population of the dogs already in there, or the dogs and cats that are already in there. So I created a flow strategy, as well as for the humans as well. We got to herd the humans around to make sure that they're not crossing over to the red zone and green zones, to make sure there's no cross contamination if the dogs come in with something tropical, it's something fun. So that was good, and we did a lot of I learned a whole lot of wayfinding and signage knowledge during that period, and they implemented quite a lot of the concepts and the theory that I presented to them.
So do you have a physical team or an associated team of other people that do the physical build of signage, and you're getting involved with the design? Or are you actually, when we're talking signage and wayfinding and things like that, are you doing everything, or is it a team? It's the royal we kind of thing.
It's the royal we. I have a weird relationship with signage contractors in a way that I've been through quite a few of them, and I've generally followed one particular individual around because we buy from individuals really, and that's one that I trust. And he employs me to help him on projects that he has on from his main business side for signage, and then I employ him on all my signage contracts. I employ him to install, because I trust him, and I know that there aren't any silly questions coming back, because he can think, and it's the same with the photography and the drone photography. I found a really good drone photographer that I trust, and I know he'll do a really good job, as well as my CGI stuff. Everything else on the creative side, the web, the branding, the marketing, the SEO, all that stuff is all done here at this desk.
And are there any, I don't call them limitations, any choices of how far you take things? So you said you'll do SEO and you'll do this, that, and the other. I mean, do you get involved with full development and building and coding of the software or the site or whatever, or again, do you work with actual developers who would do that for you?
Well, obviously it's twofold. There's the physical realm, which is the signage. I'll be on site whilst they're actually manufacturing, building it and getting them up. And then there's the sort of digital side where we recently did some work with Microsoft to build some software to get students from A to B through a certification process. Microsoft couldn't build it because it would take them too long, and we could turn it out in 6 weeks. I was approached. I created the first version myself, a very sort of Heath Robinson wheels and pulleys type system, but we got 50,000 students through it quite easily. And then version 2, I contacted a friend of mine that was a developer, a really good guy, and between us and our other business partner who has the relationship with Microsoft and LinkedIn, the three of us built this new platform for Microsoft, and now it's sort of used in quite a lot of different guises for Microsoft and for the agents of Microsoft around the world, to direct students through. So I will design something like the UI, the user experience, the user journey, but strenuous meetings about color and contrast with 9 different stakeholders for Microsoft from all over the world in 6 different time zones, 3 a.m. meetings. That's a fun project, and it's still ongoing now. We've just retired one service last month, but we have ongoing sort of the product is still running with Microsoft right now, and that's fun because that's nothing to do with anything else that I do. And again, but still, it's herding humans through a path. So using my sort of wayfinding knowledge.
It's keeping that general theme. And say the danger with having something of we create solutions to problems. There's a lot of problems out there that need solutions to be created. I guess the biggest one of the challenges around that is where people have found a lane and they just go in, that's all I do. You know, I'm just an expert in this field, and that's who you're coming up against. So what are the challenges do you face then as a business that was based on yourself, with them bringing in the skill sets and capabilities of others as and when needed? What does that lead to in terms of challenges across the industry or your business specifically?
Because I'm self-employed, this is twofold. Because I'm self-employed, there's some companies that won't touch me because I'm too small. I can give you an instance of I was going to do some branding work and some marketing for a very large number 3 car rental business in Europe. And at the last minute, I was told that I wasn't going to get the project because I'm a nobody. Let's choose this agency. They charged them 10 times as much as what I was charging, and then they got sacked on after they delivered the work. They got sacked on the second day because their fees were too extraneous. The other side of the thing is because I haven't limited myself to one niche market, I don't fall victim to the ebbs and flow in the market demand. So if I lose, if the sort of commercial property side dies down, the website will pick up, or if that dies down, then the other side picks up. And so I managed to sort of navigate this sort of tidal wave of different types of clients, and I enjoy that because it allows me to I learn from one and transpose to the other. I'm learning from big companies, and I'm giving that experience through to the smaller companies to help them grow to become big companies. And I also learn from the small companies to teach big companies that they need to be a little bit smaller sometimes, because humans are involved, and sometimes they forget that there's humans involved in what they're doing in their business process.
I think the key thing for me often is agility. The size of the organization doesn't make that much of a difference if they can demonstrate agility at every single stage. They can be big or small, and that's their advantage, I guess, in terms of being able to make decisions quickly and to move in a certain direction. So where do you see this going? You said that it's right at the start, you sort of pertain to, this is still a bit of a work in progress, even after 10 years, that you're not entirely where you have set out to be, and there's more to come. So where's that more coming from? Is it in particular areas? Are there bits that are a guilty pleasure that you go, yeah, I'd always love to do that as part of my work or whatever, just never found the time? So what's next for you?
Well, I'm in a bit of a privileged position where I turned my hobby into my job. When I was working for the architects, doing all the creative work was my hobby, and then I turned it into my job. And I have two directions I can take. I can continue on the same path, and we have a sort of a rural lifestyle. We have horses and land and stuff, so I can continue doing the workload and the work that I'm doing now quite comfortably, and just live the sort of, just amble along and not be sort of greedy. Or the other side is I can consolidate my team, formalize us under one umbrella. Obviously, they would never come on full time, but obviously as associates of the business, and really start to push, because there's so much more scope that I can do, and so much more I can offer to people. But that would mean that I would lose some of my really old relationships with some old clients that sort of that I've had from year dot, and because I'd be too commercially sort of expensive for them, really. It's just not, it wouldn't be viable for them to employ my services. So it is something I've been playing in my mind for the last year and a half or so. Over the last year since I moved into the office, into this building, and I need to make my mind up in the next sort of 4 to 6 months, really, and see where I want to go. So
if there was a an unashamed plug for or a shout out to the type of next client that you would like to have? If you could just pick one as what's going to be your next opportunity to work with, what would that be?
If there was a genie and he granted me the wish, I would say high net worth property owner, commercial property owner that wants to roll their estate in glitter. That for me would be a dream long-term relationship.
Mhm.
We'd get, we'd really make an impact on sort of the viability of their properties, as well as the sustainable side of things, and it will give me immense pleasure as well. From in my soul, it would make me feel good that we've made something look really nice. Yeah, that's
Fantastic. Well, that's the purpose of these interviews, is to actually wave the magic wand. And if anyone's watching this who happens to be a high net worth, who's got a portfolio of commercial properties, you know how to get in touch. It's as simple as that. So this is how we work. If you don't ask, you don't get, kind of thing. So it's always a good thing. So it's really interesting. I say the market, you've used your talents and your experience, your credibility, and everything that you learned for 20 years prior to doing this in architecture, and then saw a niche. As you said, you've managed to turn that niche actually into that passion into a niche and into a business, and your hobby's now your job. So it's a fantastic journey. If you had advice for anyone else starting out, either on their own, who's come from employment and corporate or whatever, or is already doing this and maybe could just learn from other people, we're all here to help at the end of the day, what advice would you give to anyone starting their journey?
Someone starting out, the advice I would give them would be to just do it.
Mm-hmm.
There's never a good time to do it. I was up against a brick wall when I made the choice.
Mm-hmm.
It was either stay in the current lane and not have a life, or get off the path and start plowing my way through and doing my own thing. If you allow yourself the latitude to do whatever you want to do, the money will come, the doors will open. And I always had, when I first started out, I always believed that 30 days is a long time to make some money, to cover, even just to cover your bills. 30 days is a long time. You can do an awful lot on your own for yourself in 30 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when the urgency is there and when the emotional connection is and the consequences, you've taken that leap of faith. Yeah, it's amazing what motivation comes from knowing that there's no way back. So it's Cortez and burning your ships, and there's only a way forward, not a way to regress. So it's a great sort of mantra. So that's bringing us towards the end of the interview. So it's been very very enjoyable, and there's a lot of passion that comes through from what you do, and that's clearly obvious in terms of even your ambitions of what would be ideal for you. It would be something that would give you satisfaction, as well as just delivering professionally for all the services. So is there anything that we've not covered that you'd like to add, or are we pretty much, we put the world to right?
I think we've covered everything. The trick is now for me is what's my next hobby.
I was going to say, turn that into a commercial lifestyle. And
I have one or two in the pipeline that I'm currently tinkering with that could potentially be my retirement. So it's
absolutely. And the innovation and the entrepreneurial kind of spirit of turning things that you love into commercial aspects of your life is a great way to keep moving forward. So keep dreaming, keep thinking of new areas to sort of develop. So that does actually bring us to the end of the interview. Really would like to thank Jamie for sharing the journey, this continued journey, and it's watch this space, because I think there's lots of positives happening into the future that'll mean that this journey is only part way through. So that's a great thing. So thank you again. Thank you for everyone who's been watching as well. So if you've been watching this and wondering how you could maybe record your own interview, get a little bit of increased awareness of what you're doing in your business, then when we post these out onto YouTube and various different places, then we put a few little guidelines of how to get in touch, how to book in for your own interviews, and you could be just like Jamie, sharing your journey and highlighting all of the wins and successes that you're having. So once again, a big thank you to everyone. Thank you for watching. It's been another of our Spotlight interviews, and we'll see you soon. Take care.